Breaking news just in the last few moments. House prices are down 1.1% on this time last year. It's a 0.5% contraction on the last month. And across the UK, the average house price in February was £257,406. Prices, according to Nationwide, are now 3.7% lower than at their peak in August 2022.
OK, is that necessarily bad news? This is good news. Professor of Economics at King's College London, Jonathan Portes, joins us this morning. Jonathan, what's your reading of this? Good morning.
I think it's no surprise. We were expecting the housing market to weaken, both as a result of the general weakness in the economy and the squeeze on real incomes as a result of high inflation, but also, of course, the quite sharp rise in interest rates over the last year or so. I think, in the medium term, the UK would be better off with lower house prices, right? With lower price to incomes ratios so that people can afford to buy their first house and move house. So on the whole, the people who lose from high house prices are old people who are living in big or expensive houses and their children. This is the least needy section of society. The people who gain from lower house prices are pretty much everyone who wants to buy their first house or people who want to move up the ladder, which tend to be the rest of us and people who are more struggling. So overall, lower house prices is a good thing. Obviously, a sharp crash in the housing market reflecting a weak economy isn't a bad thing. I don't think we're there yet, so I don't think this is probably on the whole a good thing for most of us.
House prices might be coming down, but mortgages are pretty expensive at the moment. I mean, we've seen inflation nudging down. Can we expect to see interest rates follow suit at some point? Could mortgages become more affordable again?
Well, they've come down a bit already from their peaks after the panic surrounding the budget at the latter end of last year. But even after the impact of the catastrophic budget was reversed, the broader trend in interest rates, both in the UK and globally, has been up. And I don't think we're expecting to see long-term interest rates come down much anytime soon. So I don't think there's any particular likelihood that mortgage rates are going to fall very much. Of course, by historical standards, they are still relatively low. So I don't think that people would not be well advised to assume that rates are going to come down more from where they are now. I mean, I think if you're buying a house, you could assume that.
Yeah, we are, though, Professor, expecting inflation to come down. Does that necessarily mean, is it a given that if inflation comes down, prices automatically come down with it?
No, absolutely not. Inflation falling does not mean prices are coming down. It just means they're not rising as fast. So if inflation comes down from, as we expect it to do over the course of the year, from about 9%, 10% to something much closer to 4 or 5% in the course of the year, that doesn't mean prices are falling. It just means that they're rising at a rate of 4 or 5% a year. So, of course, some individual prices may come down. We may see some of the sort of elevated food prices that we're seeing come down for seasonal reasons because the weather gets better, supply chain results. But overall, we're not expecting to see prices to fall, no.
And I suppose what's so pernicious about the inflation and the impact on households is it affects the sort of poorer households disproportionately more. The percentage of their income that is spent on these goods is much higher than those who've got broader shoulders.
That's right. For the sort of inflation we're seeing now, which has been driven very much by the rise in energy prices and the rise in food prices, that clearly hits poorer households considerably worse than it hits better off households who spend a much lower proportion of their overall income on energy bills or on food prices. So this cost of living squeeze has definitely hit the poorest harder. And you've seen that in some of the figures out today, which show other research out today showing a record rise in food poverty, the number of people who cannot afford to feed themselves and their families. So that squeeze on real incomes, cuts to benefits, cuts to benefits for low-income working families and to people who don't have a job. Those combined, those are really hitting people at the bottom end considerably harder than those of us at the middle and upper end.